Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, concerts that made us, interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us, concertsthatmadeus.com.
Hey, this is JC Miller, and I'm going to be talking to Brian at Concerts That Made Us. Excited to be here.
JC Miller, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Brian.
It's fantastic to have you now. I'm looking forward to diving into your music over the next bit. Now, you recently released Sundown Slim. It's a hell of a song. It really rocks. Take us deeper into it if you can.
Um, okay, yeah. I mean, basically, um, I have a very kind of Texas, Louisiana kind of Southern style in my playing. My family's father is from there. I spent a lot of my youth actually driving around the South and Southwestern United States, buying cowboy boots and old 1950s cowboy boots and leather jackets and selling them on Melrose in Los Angeles. So I traveled all around there, spent a lot of time on the road. Also did it with music in bands. So I really liked the idea there of kind of doing just a real Texas style jam, and kind of using the names of the towns as a device to be able to play guitar, which is kind of a lot of it always. I'm a writer sort of in self-defense in a weird way, because I love to play. I love to play with other people. I love to collaborate, but if I'm Keith Richards, I never met my Mick Jagger. If I'm Jimmy Page, I never met my Robert Plant. So I had to do it myself, unfortunately or fortunately. So Sundown Slim is kind of like a travel log, trying to convey the feeling of like what it's like with your top down in an old car driving through, Texas, going to thrift stores and, concert venues and stuff. Because basically so much of my music is about that feeling of being on the road, the freedom of leaving trouble and strife behind, and that kind of lure of the open road and kind of reinvention and all that.
Yeah, yeah. You've been described as a master storyteller. How do you go about setting a scene within a song?
Oh, that's funny, Brian, because basically it can happen all different ways, because I try not to do the same thing. If something's been done before, there's no point in doing it. And so a lot of times I'll literally start with a track. I'm like, playing music, and I'm like, wow, that sounds a lot like birds flying. Okay, well, Flying South, it's like an upcoming song I have called Flying South, where the guitar is kind of mimicking the sonic quality of like birds traveling in flocks, or so it can start with the music first, and then I try to close my eyes and think about, what does this music sound like? It sounds like a sunrise. Where would that be? It's the desert. I love the desert. I've been there. It's that feeling. Other times it's the other way, where I write the lyrics first and try to really shape it with the words, and then close my eyes like, okay, what would the music be to those words? And sometimes I kind of do these self-limiting parameters on myself, where I'm like, don't just jump into that because that's the first thing you thought of what it sounds like. Hold on, don't write that music yet. So it could be words first describing, or music first describing, and then I start to mingle them and like tailor and refine and stuff. So it can happen every which way.
I like it. I like it. Now, if someone was to look at your releases, your output seems to be unmatched. I mean, it's single after single after single. Tell us about your process and how you are so consistent.
Oh, well, thank you. That's a nice thought. Basically, I got to say the prolific nature of it is because of really how lucky I am to be so physically near my producer and iconic musician friend Marty Rifkin, who's Bruce Springsteen, Tom Petty, Glenn Campbell, like all my heroes. He plays pedal steel, bass, dobro, mandolin. So I'm really able to focus. It's the best part about being in a band. Like, the band is basically just me and Marty. And so we really like to react to each other's playing. And so I get to be off the hook with the technology because I'm completely hopeless. I'm literally like a Telecaster, plug it in, two knobs, maybe a foot pedal, but not six foot pedals. I don't, my vision and sound isn't about the technology gets in my way. Then I, delete everything or something crashes and I'm all crestfallen. I'm kind of too emotional of a guy to really get handy with that. And, I remember playing live. You were talking about playing live, Brian. I remember, playing once and I was having all this like trouble and the amp wasn't working and it was too loud. Then it was this, and the roadie came up to me screaming at me on stage, "You've got to know your rig, man." And I was like, he's got a point. He's got a really good point. But it's not me. So in answer to your question about being prolific, I'm free to say, oh, I don't have to get the new version of Pro Tools. I don't even know how to, figure out the fingering of this on an actual banjo or mandolin because Marty's got my back. And so I get to just be free to kind of develop the catalog and say, hey, for me, it's, the Sun Belt territory of the United States. It's really, kind of from Southern California, New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, Louisiana, Georgia, all the way to Florida. I'm JC the third. My father was JC. His father was JC. From Bogalusa, Louisiana, and Vernon, Florida, Denton, Texas. And so it's kind of the metaphor is really the road trips are kind of self-discovery within myself, because my grandmother, who I never met, she passed away before I was born. My father's mother, was a music teacher and taught, violin and piano. So I get to develop the catalog, kind of like any curation of like, hey, what's missing from this picture? I want to kind of join the whole Sun Belt area of the United States because I don't think a lot of people associate 1973 Bakersfield that I'm obsessed with, Buck Owens and Merle Haggard and, Nashville and Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top. And, my influences, I never try to hide, everyone's going to listen to go, dude, are you into, let me guess, Leon Russell, Dr. John, Little Feat, the Allman Brothers, ZZ Top, Buck Owens. It's like, yeah, how did you guess? So that's the answer to how I can be so prolific is Marty frees me up to just think about the sonic archaeology and the words and I'm trying to paint pictures with words and music. That's it.
It's the perfect way to sum it up. You're so lucky though that, you have Marty there to rely on.
Don't I know it? Don't I know it? Oh my goodness. Yes, indeed. That is a fact. And no day goes by that I'm not grateful for it either. No day goes by I'm not grateful for Marty.
I'm not surprised. But how did you guys meet? How did you guys come to work together?
We met on a commercial. I was a composer for hire. And so I was doing a commercial and, we were just fooling around and I was, plugged into Amp. It's like, whoa, because I do a lot of stuff on keyboards and, whatever is needed. And it's, the music's done when the client's done, not when I feel like it's done. And I was just kind of tooling around in his amp room and he's like, whoa. He goes, are you from Texas? I said, no. And he goes, are you from Shreveport, Louisiana? I'm like, no. And he goes, man, so we started talking and we started recording some of the songs I had been writing in my notebooks and stuff. And this alchemy happened where, one of my favorite things that happens is, I go into the studio and I go, well, hey, Marty, what would you play this? He goes, I have no idea. And he's not trying to, shrug me off. He's saying, when you put that part down, I'm going to react to that. So we're really both dedicated to this idea that, why is Led Zeppelin and, the Rolling Stones, and U2 and, the Allman Brothers, what's with those like alignments of those musicians? The answer, they're listening to each other. They're playing off of each other. They're humble. No one's being flashy and stepping out and like turning their amp up too much. We've all been in bands with, personality types like that. It's the opposite. Why is it that, Neil Young is so amazing, but, he's still not, that great at tuning his guitar? It doesn't matter. It's the emotion. A lot of guys with the, digital guitar tuners and playing perfect renditions of every great guitar player that ever lived doesn't have the emotional clout and power of a Neil Young or The Edge or, Buck Owens or, songwriter guitar playing has always been a thing for me. And so I'm trying to see, hey, can I be a pretty decent guitar player for being a songwriter? And can I be a pretty decent songwriter for being a guitar guy? And so that's what happened with me and Marty. It's like, oh, whoa, dude, do you play pedal steel and, bass and like deal with all the tech? And I can just like do my, dreamy, dreaming of hitting the road again and getting the heck out of here. And the feeling of freedom that comes with that. That alchemy between the two of us, listening to each other and mostly reacting to each other, is something that we just kind of clicked on day one, and I think that was like 8 years ago or something. So,
oh man,
yeah.
With the last few releases that you've released, when it came to recording production, was there any challenges you faced, or maybe memorable moments that you can share with us?
Yeah, and recording the songs. Yeah. I mean, what I love about it is this. It's kind of like cooking, Brian, and it means that if you've got grandma's recipe, you know exactly what to put in there, and the secret is, the soy sauce, a little bit of wine. That's great. But it's kind of like cooking, saying, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm making a casserole, but we're not exactly sure what's going in there. That kind of experimentation is always at the forefront of what me and Marty are doing. And so it's part history of literally saying, hey, man, how was it done when the band did it? What's Levon Helm playing at that moment? Why is that, a band that I keep, the band that I keep coming up to with like the golden example of what we're trying to go for. So a lot of the great things are when, like the rhythm track comes together, because I'm a real like rhythm guy. And as a musician in my life, the minute I got good at guitar, I switched to piano. The minute I got good at piano, I switched it to bass. It started with drums that my parents thought were too loud, so they got me a guitar. So I like kind of having hands-on in all this area, but in a lot of ways, I feel like I play drums and bongos and tablas with my right hand on the guitar. I almost treat the guitar like a rhythm instrument. So, for example, Dead Horse Ranch, is like magic when, that rhythm is figured out, and I can just go on that kind of Autobahn highway groove. And so when that stuff kind of comes together, like it did on Wayward Son or Before Nightfall, when I get that rhythm and that mood, that rhythm bed, basically, that's a real breakthrough. Challenges, yeah, all the time. I was a session player for years, and did auditions and stuff where I like took the strings sharp with my left hand pressing down too hard. Marty's great, man. He'll just sit there with me. I sit in the same chair that Glenn Campbell sat in, to play the guitar. I'm like, wow, that's, because his studio used to be the Beach Boys studio. So not only did Glenn Campbell sit in that seat when it was the Beach Boys playing on their records, but it was also Marty produced his last solo album. So Glenn Campbell sitting there, and Marty's just sitting there like a great teacher saying like, dig in like heck with your right hand and barely even touch it with your left hand, you know? And so, you know, stuff like that. He's like a taskmaster, and it's great for me. You know, it's like my gym instructor. Like, don't take the string sharp. So a lot of times it's stuff like that where, you know, and you know, it can be taking the intonation sharp with the left hand of a guitar, but it can also be another thing I love that keeps it spontaneous is like, oh man, this is going to be so great. It sounds so great on this guitar. It sounds so great. And then we record it and I go, hey, Marty, it doesn't sound that great. And it's like, yeah, good point. What? It didn't translate. It didn't translate. Just like you say, oh, wow, you know, that person would be great in a movie. It's like, you know, I just put him in a movie. It didn't work. Like, it doesn't. What I love about recording, because I did play a lot of live stuff in my life, but I really am a studio rat, and there's just my, you know, safe place on earth is in Marty Rifkin's studio with Marty, and my producer Gabby Doré, and so that time is where we can evaluate and go, God, you know, I don't want to be invested in this because I thought it was going to be so great, because now I'm listening to it recorded and captured. It's not that great. Let's move on. Let's change it. And it's those changes. That's kind of part of the reacting part I'm talking about. Like, you know, call and answer on a lead between Marty on, you know, pedal steel and me on guitar, or that kind of thing. So that's where we can run into trouble, is that one. We're like, whoa, dude, this is going to be amazing. And then we're like, oh, I thought you said it was going to be amazing. It's not that amazing. You're like, a good point. And now we'll have to, you know, turn the page, you know. So both, you know, trouble and magic, it happens in the studio.
Perfect. Perfect. Now, before we move on to some concert related questions, I have to ask, this is more of a studio based project, but is there ever any plans in the future to do some live shows with us?
Oh, I would love it. I would love it. You know, for Dead Horse Ranch, we went to McCabe's, and you know, Marty's played up there with Eric Clapton, and there I was just saying Dead Horse Ranch, and so but it was a lot of fun. Like everyone was saying, like, wow, when you guys are just like rehearsing, it sounds crazy. So I love my band. I have a great band. We want to play live. It's the logistics of touring and playing live these days is tough. You know, the level of musicians that are in my band are like not going to just say, hey, let's, let's rent a house in Mandeville Canyon and get a bus and we'll drive around. Those days are over. I did lots of that. It was so fun and so horrifying at other times. But that life on the road thing is complicated by like kind of the post-COVID environment and concert venues and just the reality of the financing that it takes to, start going all over the world. But believe me, it's one of my dreams. I mean, if I have to, I'm gonna start just going out with my acoustic guitar. Because another thing that Marty taught me, that is just totally invaluable, and it's just like I'm ingrained in me now, is when I first met him, I was like the studio rat saying, oh cool, and then it's going to be killer because the bass line's like ding 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 ding, and then the drums are like ding, 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 and he's like, hey, be quiet, stop telling me about the bass. He doesn't talk like that. He said, hey, that's cool, sit down and play me this song straight through, no stopping. You don't get to stop and go, oh hey, wait a minute, wait, I forgot the bridge. Play me the song. Got to come out of your body. You have to sit down on a guitar or a piano and sing this song all the way through. And it's a really good point, because when you're a studio rat guy like me, composer for hire, I do all kinds of things that are like fragmentary and, little snippets and stuff. And it's just great to go, oh man, I got to get this thing going through the center of my torso, and no apologies. And yeah, you sang flat there and you played the wrong note there, but I'm sorry, it doesn't stop all the people that we love, from the Beatles to Neil Young to, the flaws in it. No one's going to go into a museum and say, I really like that painting, but that brushstroke was off, it depends
Yeah.
on what the message is, and so the answer to your question, kind of a long answer is I would love to, and I may just kind of go out by myself with an acoustic guitar because I love, like, you got to deliver this now this way. You don't get to, like, pull out your Stratocaster and start hitting your wang bar here. You got to, like, pretend you're, at the feet of Dylan or Joni Mitchell or Bonnie Raitt. You got to just make it simple, deliver the message. So I probably will end up going out by myself, but I dream about going out with my band. They're just such killer players. Everyone listens. It's Marty's son, Julian, and Eduardo Tancredi, killer drummer. Everyone knows all the heroes. We're always talking about, Levon Helm and, just all of our favorite players, but we all are, kind of experienced enough knowing that, the trick is not to copy Jimi Hendrix, because it'll just sound like you copied Jimi Hendrix. The point is, to be like that, you have to invent as much as Jimi Hendrix, and that's gonna be a tough go. So it means that everyone's can play, but they all kind of, what I would say, tuck it in. I love a lot of crazy, in your face, aggressive music, but I'm at the age now where I might leave early or something, just because I like the tucked in stuff. Why are the Stones still amazing? It's why is Led Zeppelin sound like it was made yesterday? It's so timeless and universal. So
true, very true. That leads nicely into our next question. As a concert goer, what concerts would you say have made you?
Wow. So many. And it's really funny because, as a composer for hire and stuff, people are like, what kind of music do you like? I like every kind of music. There's like no kind of music I don't like. Somebody really took me to the mat once and said, really, there's just not one. If you didn't like one kind of music, what would you not like? I'm like, all right, Broadway show tunes and like theatrical stuff. But besides that, I mean, I love, heavy metal, folk, rock, jazz, Brazilian jazz, Paris jazz. I'm kind of a student of musicology in a way. And so different concerts, you'd be surprised at what they are, whether it's, Peter Gabriel or Seal or Leonard Skinner. I mean, in 1974, I think I went to see The Who. And everyone's like, who's Leonard Skinner? Who is this guy? Who is Leonard Skinner? No one ever heard of him. And they literally blew everyone away and finished with Free Bird with the 3 lead guitar players out there. And everyone was like, oh my God. So really, it's all over the map. But it could be, Sade. I'm thinking of like concerts that I've seen. Deep Purple, Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow. But it's just all over the map, and the type that it is. Bonnie Raitt, Taj Mahal. And so I go, wait a minute, Deep Purple, Taj Mahal. Oh, wait, hold on a second. But not really. If you love music, you're not interested in labels. That's all I got to say. Every musician I've ever met that is really like spot on doesn't care about the labels. And it could be jazz and Miles Davis and Chet Baker, and it could be, jazz rock I'm not really a fan of. Like it took me a long time to realize I love Michael Schenker of UFO. It's amazing. Yngwie Malmsteen. I taught guitar lessons with Joe Satriani when I was a kid in Northern California. So I've been exposed to that just kind of, Olympics of physical, athletics on guitar. And I'm like, yeah, that stuff is amazing. It's not me. I'm a slow hand dude. I'm like Mick Ralphs of Bad Company or something. You got to be able to sing my guitar solos. Peter Frampton, sing the guitar solos. Carlos Santana, sing it back to me. It's not like, but it is amazing. you know, and it's cool. But I did notice, like, how come I'm attracted to these bands that aren't in tune? You know, The Clash, you know, Blondie. I like the whole spectrum of music. So, short answer to your question is the concerts are in every category. You know, it's just every category. You know, Daniel Lanois in a club in Southern California by himself, because you learn from every concert, and you take that kind of takeaway with you, you know, from what's being put out there. And it's about connecting, and it's about people listening, and it's about you. You know, somebody asked me recently, I was really taken aback. They were like, what would you want in your epitaph for people to say about your music? And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is live. I don't know what to say. And I thought about it. I said, you know what? I would like the listener to think there's room in there for me. It's not about him. It's about me. It's about us. It's about the universality of that road trip, not that he scored some killer cowboy boots and now he's going to make some cash, you know, and that's really it. Is I kind of want to be where people can get in there, and it's not this onslaught of like me, what I can do, what I can do, what I can do. And I guess that's it. You know, I want there to be room in my audio jams, you know, Spike Lee calls them a joint, you know, my joint, my jam, my song, my track, my soundtrack, I'll call it, because I really like soundtracks, you know, cinematic Americana soundtracks. If somebody said, what do you do? I could also say, second line funk, Southern rock, woodsy blues, outlaw country balladry, but I would really say cinematic, Americana soundtracks. So anyway, that level of sensitivity in musicians and songwriters and stuff is what I'm attracted to. So it's all over the map. And I'm going to just say, I'll just end it by saying Deep Purple and Taj Mahal.
Right.
Yeah, rootsy blues that made Ritchie Blackmore in the first place. But then I also like Ritchie Blackmore. I like the Stones, they're going all the way back to Josh White and 30s blues, but believe me, it doesn't sound like that. And I had some experience recording, in the Hall & Oates sphere in New York, and I realized, at that time, Hall & Oates is thinking they sound like the Temptations. They're from Philly, they're white, they're copying their favorite heroes, but the greatness about Hall & Oates was that they didn't sound like the Temptations. And so that's what I love about the Stones or Deep Purple. People think, oh, Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water. It's like, no. You got to listen to the first albums. There's R&B in there. There's like songwriting. There's like imagery with lyrics that I'm like, wow, including in Smoke on the Water. So I don't know if that really answers your question, though.
No, it does. It does. It's actually one of the most perfect answers I've heard. I love it.
Oh, okay. Right, great. Thank you. Okay.
And before we dive into the last couple of questions, then, future plans that are set in stone, what can you share with us?
Well, here's some future plans that are set in stone, because a lot of people do come out with me like, what the heck, a new single every 3 weeks? And all I have to say is I have the next year on deck done.
Oh, man.
So I have in the hopper that I'm always tinkering with until I got to let them go out into the world. I have a year's worth of every 3 week singles that are, adding to the catalog, or whatever you want to call it, because I want them to all be of a piece and be related to each other. And so when I'm writing, I'm like, what am I missing? What did I not say before? Even getting scientific about, yeah, that was a pretty funky group, but it's not as good as Dixie Chicken by, Little Feat. So let's listen to that again. Don't copy it, remember? One of the things that was really interesting what that was really interesting about working in music for hire is my specialty was in somebody coming to me saying, hey, we cut this commercial to Peter Gabriel. He wants $1 million for Red Rain. I had to copy it for Nike or Levi's or Coca-Cola or something. And the idea is you got to bring the essence of something forward, but then you must depart and add something to make it original art, or you're just copying. So I will not allow myself to write a song where you go, oh, dude, that is Dixie Chicken by Little Feat. Oh yeah, sorry. I wish I wrote, Wild Horses by the Rolling Stones or Rockin' Man by Elton John, but I can't. I gotta look at those moments and the way it made me feel, and how can I create something that would make a listener or me feel that way? Not what the chords were, not what the melody is, not what the sounds are, but what's the feeling that you take away.
I get you. Perfect. Right. The final question. So it's a bit of an odd one now, but I'll throw it at you anyway. If you had to spend 24 hours locked in a room with any musician from history, who would it be?
It's so easy to answer that question, but I'd like to go the roundabout way, because instead of just going like, dang, boom, there it is. There's just no question about that, but there's so many. There isn't any question about the top slot. But I'm going to make my way up to that. I would like, can I do like 5 and then I'll tell you in reverse, I would love to sit and play with Bonnie Raitt. That is just like a dream of mine. Just the soul dripping in the room, would just, in her slide playing and just her whole approach to how to make music, I love. Now, can I include people that are not alive, or is this only people still alive?
No, anyone living or dead.
Well, then I don't know. Then the list goes to like 100, from Django Django Reinhardt to Miles Davis. Anyone's doing less with more. But the number one slot could only be Jimmy Page. There's just no other choice.
I love it.
Because at heart I am a composer. And so, my dream has always been to somehow enable Jimmy Page's guitar literature to play with a symphony, but not in a way that the rock people understand it, that the most sophisticated music people in the world are going, wow, this is like East Indian, and it's got drone, but it's got rock. It's, what Jimmy Page has done through the electric guitar, from doing skiffle sessions when he was a kid to the first heavy duty stuff in those first 4 records, but really like Houses of the Holy changed my life. And I had to slow records down to 16 speed. This is funny. It's turned into the longest answer yet. 16 speed on the record. So I heard Jimmy Page go, I'm like, how the hell is he doing that? And then I heard, oh man, you hear right there on 16 speed from 33, I can hear his open strings. It's an open G tuning. Now I know the tuning. Let me go back. Of course, now there's the internet, but this was 1975. But now you could just look. I'm sure I could Google it. Like, I want to watch Jimmy Page play that famous song. But it's the only thing on earth that Marty Rifkin and I disagree on is like Jimmy Page, because he's like, oh, he's so sloppy live. And it's like, hey, I remember seeing The Song Remains the Same, and it's got, he missed a bunch of those notes, and that's like kind of out of tune, and that's not the solo. But that's like saying I had dinner with Picasso and I didn't like the blue that he chose. It's like, we're talking about Jimmy Page. This is the man that did Whole Lot of Love, and The Song Remains the Same, and Physical Graffiti. And I once did a session at the record plant for a commercial, which is always slightly embarrassing, I gotta say. I never did any singing about commercial ever. It was always soundtrack. I'm a soundtrack guy. But next door to me was Plant and Page. And at that same studio, Prince was next door, and he had like, fabric, linen and silk hanging all over the equipment so he didn't have to see it. There was a lot of big names in there. Guns N' Roses, Plant and Page were there, and I just was like, oh my God. I was just like hair on my arm standing up. Robert Plant came back, got a cup of coffee. I was there. He was super nice. Hey, how you doing? I was like, oh my God. But in answer to your question, Brian, Jimmy Page.
I love it. I love it. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
JC, listen, this has been an absolutely enlightening experience. Thanks a million.
Oh, thanks. For me too. It's really fun to be on here, Brian.
Spot this time, a towering summit where the snow never melts. On top of Mars Hill, army of shadows, bear jaw on the trail, leave the world hightail. Mount Eldon with its mythic white icy sunbells. Oh, Ponderosa Pine, the universe versus the lonesome dove. But just looking straight up at all the silvery stars above, find release, real peace in the stunning sight line. Dead horse ran, splintered brand, old black jack, Ponderosa Pine. Dead horse brand, splintered winter brand, crescent moon, I'm tuning into the sublime. Along Route 180, bathing red sandstone, Rio de flag, dressed in ragtag. I'm a mystic misfit on a mission for bliss. A fallen walnut canyon, a forever formation. There's something bigger than you. The force of nature breaks through. We're all a small part of this place. I reminisce. Old blackjack, Ponderosa Pine, the universe versus the lonesome dove. But just looking straight up at all the silvery stars above.
guys. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. And if you're interested in signing up to Band Builder Academy, use the link in the show notes below and enter the code CONCERTS and you'll receive 10% off. So, until next time, keep rocking.
Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here. Bye.